Okay, we're gonna wait just a second for Secretary Sagaski to get here. Did she, do I need to ask her how long she's gonna be, or I can get started? Please. Get a ribbon cutting next week for it? Kasner Building? Or 2 weeks? I think I'm coming to, I've known those people a long time. Bob and I went to graduate school together, yeah.
She was on the way, she did give us an ETA though.
On the way from downstairs. and on the way from-
From her office in downtown Las Vegas, so it's usually.
Let me start here. I'd call to order today's meeting for Tuesday, November 12th, 2019 of the State Board of Examiners. Could I ask for a roll call, please?
Yes, good morning, Governor. Governor Sisolak,
Here.
Attorney General Ford,
Here.
Secretary of State Sagaski,
Secretary of State is on her way. We will notify as soon as she gets here. I'll do the public comment and the minutes and whatnot before then.
let the record reflect we do have a quorum.
Okay, this is the first time, item number 2, this is the first time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item on today's agenda, items on the agenda, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any? Do we have any in Carson City?
We do not.
Do we have any in Las Vegas? We do not. Item number 3, approval of the October 8th, 2019 minutes. Approval. We have a motion for approval from Attorney General Ford. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
On this agenda item, the first is from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Division of Water Resources, for one new vehicle at a cost of $27,373. This vehicle is being funded with assessments. It was not included in the agency's budget. The second request is also from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources State Parks for 2 replacement vehicles for a total of $69,454.50. These vehicles being replaced have met the age and mileage requirements in SAM, and funding is included in the agency's budget. The third and fourth requests are from the Department of Corrections. This includes 1 replacement of a vehicle that was totaled for $10,000. This was not included in the agency budget and is being funded with insurance proceeds. The fourth item includes the replacement of 52 vehicles for a total of $2,418,045. These vehicles have met the age and mileage requirements in SAM, and funding with division, and includes replacement of 12 vehicles for $367,637. 10 of the 12 vehicles currently meet the age or mileage requirements in SAM, and the remaining 2 were expected to meet those requirements in the current biennium, and funding for all vehicles was included in Assembly Bill 511 of the 2019 session. Representatives from the agencies are available to answer any questions on these items.
I appreciate the briefing you had on this. Any questions? Motion.
Move approval.
We have a motion for approval on item number 4. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing
4 of NRS 333.705, an agency may contract with a former employee without first obtaining Board of Examiners approval if the term of the contract is for less than 4 months and the head of the using agency determines an emergency exists. If a using agency contracts with an individual pursuant to this exception, they must submit a copy of the contract and a description of the emergency to the Board of Examiners, who shall review the contract and description of the emergency and notify the agency whether or not they would have approved the contract had it not been entered into under the emergency provision. There's 1 request under this item from the Department of Education seeking favorable recommendation from the board on their use of the emergency provisions to contract with a former employee. The department contracted through Manpower with a former executive assistant, from September 25th, 2019 to November 30th of 2019. The would allow the department sufficient time to hire and train employees who can perform these duties and provide. This particular person was hired to provide services to the new Commission on Education Funding, or temporary.
Okay, so they'll be working in the education funding?
Yes, they were working with the Commission on Funding.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
I have none.
The motion?
Move approval.
You make all the motions here for. We have a motion on the floor for approval on item number 5. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 6, authorization to contract
Yes.
with a current and/or former state employee.
Item 6 includes 3 requests to contract with 3 current and/or former employees pursuant to NRS 333.705 subsection 1. The first request is from the Department. Individual will be employed by Manpower through MSA contract number 18404. The second request is from the Department of Administration Purchasing Division on behalf of the State Controller's Office to contract with a former employee to provide assistance with required financial reporting on a part-time basis. This individual will be employed by Marathon Staffing Group through MSA number 18405. And the third and final request under this item is from the Department of Public Safety, Office of Traffic Safety, to contract with a former employee to provide quality assurance services for the Nevada Rider Motorcycle Program training providers in Clark County. Representatives are available to answer any questions.
Okay, I don't have a problem with these 3 specific hires, but I did stress in our briefing that I would like you to get to all these agencies that this should be an exceptional circumstance, not regular course of business, and it's becoming more regular course of business that we're getting these just following through. We're keeping people on after they retire. And if they could address that on the individual department level.
No questions. Ready for a motion?
Yep.
Move approval.
We have a motion on the floor from, again,
Requests for a positive recommendation to the Interim Finance Committee. Pursuant to NRS 353.268, the general fund contingency account has an approximate balance of $27.7 million to cover unanticipated costs for the 2019-2021 biennium. If these items are approved today, the remaining balance in the account would be approximately $26.8 million. The first request in the amount of $342,179 is from the Department of Education to replenish the special education contingent balance to the account, in the account to $2 million as expected by the 2019 legislature. And this is how we replenish this account, is through IFC contingency
okay,
funds.
do you want us to take these one at a time?
Yes.
Okay, I have no problem with the first one.
Approval.
We have a motion on the floor for approval on item number 7A. Any discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. 7B.
7B, this request is in the amount of $175,000 from the Department of Education to fund an impact and validity study of the statewide performance evaluation system in accordance with Senate Bill 475 of the 2019 legislative session.
Other question on this one? Yeah.
No, move approval.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion?
Emergency Management in the amount of $343,908 to fund security support to Clark County during the upcoming New Year's Eve activities.
Who is here to answer questions on this item?
I have
Come on up.
Yes, sir.
Please.
We have people coming to the table also in Carson City.
Okay. My question is, and I'm very familiar with the New Year's Eve activity on the Las Vegas Strip, and from my time on the county commission, I understand that county often asks for the state to cover expenses that were expended in the county. Why is this not planned for in the LVCVA budget?
We need it as the emergency manager. Those are the questions I can answer. I can't speculate on the LVCVA portion.
And I totally get we need it. It's a lot of people on the strip. My question is, who should pay for it?
Yes,
You know, I mean, this is not an emergency event where we're calling out the guard. This is a planned event to call out the guard, and it comes down to, if we do it for this, are we gonna do it for the NFL draft? Are we gonna do it for the Reno Air Races? Are we gonna do it for the Balloons? When does it become the state's responsibility, and when is it a local jurisdiction responsibility?
yes, sir. So I can speak to at least some of that. You know, as you know, it's an exceptional incident. It's an exceptional event with a high amount of visibility, more people than what we're used to having at any particular time. The National Guard presence is necessary at the 3 different locations that we have them, both at the different entrances of the resort corridor, McCarran and UMC, with all their different specialties. We do call in assets for the Guard for some of the different events that you just spoke to. They're just events throughout the year. This one in particular, though, we just do not have enough manpower for here locally. AB rosters with police, you're familiar with it, sir.
I
All the
got it,
resources.
and I
Yes, sir.
don't question at all what you guys are doing is incredible. You're stretching the resources as far as you can. I guess my question comes in is when does it switch over to, I mean, who makes the request? Does the LBCVA make the request?
No, sir, I do.
Is it based on a study that they do?
No, sir. It's based on needs that we determine between law enforcement and emergency management, that we need those additional resources, but we don't get any requests from the LBC.
Do?
Well, I wouldn't anticipate that to be at this same exact level, but we will ask for some guard resources for that as well. As we start doing our needs assessment, we'll fill those gaps. We'll certainly have the hazardous materials team that I spoke of do some checks of some areas like we do for all of those. I don't know that we will need the same level of presence, but that's not done in a vacuum. That's done with guard personnel, that's done with law enforcement, that's done with our FBI partners as we put together this plan. But the LVCVA,
support you're asking and you're getting the support. I just know when I was on the county, we would often, when I was at Metro, we would also question why Metro wasn't billing for extra services that we provided for various events. And sometimes you did, and sometimes you didn't, and what the handle is on that. So if we could move forward, if you would, and work with our director to determine how we're gonna handle that moving forward, I guess is my question.
yeah, so I have the same exact questions as you do. As you know, fire department spends hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yep.
on this event, and there's no reimbursement available back to us for those that we could do to recover some of those costs. We're definitely on your side on
Okay,
that.
got it.
Governor?
Okay.
Governor, this is Justin Luna in Carson City. I'm the chief of the Division of Emergency Management within the Department of Public Safety, and I just wanted to provide information. I believe there are authorities in statute that I provided some information on that allow for the state to provide supplemental
7C, sorry.
emergency assistance when the needs of the local jurisdiction are exhausted. And so that is, based on my understanding, to provide assistance during these types of situations.
Okay, my question is, what makes it this type of a situation? When we had the storm area 51, if you recall, we had an all-hands staff up for that. And I guess the question is, when is it the state's responsibility and when does the local jurisdiction reimburse the Clark County Fire Department? It's not an emergency situation, I get you 100%. This is a for-profit situation that individual businesses are profiting greatly from this, and the fire department is expending great additional resources.
This is Justin Luna for the record, and we approach it as a situation that needs heightened preparedness planning. In statute, emergency is defined as also as a threatened occurrence, or to be able to avert the threat of something happening. And so we believe with these additional resources from the state that we are preparing for events that could potentially occur and providing additional public safety and security for the event.
Governor, can I add? Any of them, we have an opportunity to bill back the vendor. It's built in the statute,
Right.
and the vendor provides that. When they're community-wide like this, we don't seem to have that same ability. So that, I believe that's where you'd like us to work towards. But that was a situation in the Area 51, of course, was
Right.
that the promoter, there wasn't the amount of, first of all, there wasn't the volume to get the money that was needed for that, for the resources that we needed. Second, the amount of people that were gonna actually be at that event weren't gonna provide that amount back to us. But when it's the entire community that's getting this surge, it draws a distinction for us to where we don't have that same recovery ability.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you, but we're gonna be getting more and more of these type of events coming in. And I understand we need to protect the public, not keep going back to the contingency fund every time it's deemed that we need to provide enhanced security. And I don't know which way to handle this, but it just seems like sometimes we do it, the Electric Daisy, for example. I don't know if we pay for extra people out there, we bill back.
We go back.
See, now you bill back for one, but you don't bill back for another. That's just kind of a difficult situation.
Yeah, but that, again, that's.
That's one promoter.
That's one
Yeah,
promoter,
yeah.
which we're able to, we have the ability through the local ordinances and
Right.
statute to go ahead and do that. This is the difference. You're 100% right. I would love to see this as a line item that, we're not doing the same process.
Okay.
And
Susan,
Governor,
forgive
this
us.
is Justin Luna again. I just want to provide that historically, the Division of Emergency Management has not billed back local jurisdictions for have been exhausted. So when the state provides additional supplemental support, the division hasn't typically billed back a local jurisdiction for those services.
And Mr. Luna, I understand you've made that point numerous times, but I'm not sure if that should be the case. And I think level, it should certainly not keep coming out of contingency funds and going back and back and back and back and back. Okay,
Yes,
Governor,
sir, I
is
will.
there a plan to do Area 51 again?
yeah, my understanding is they want to do it another time. Yeah.
And so Governor, to that point,
Yeah.
John Steinbeck for the record again, to that point, we did provide Lincoln with all of our billing for that so that they knew what the cost would be next time, so we could try to lean into that next time, because we do see that. We don't want to incur those costs either.
Right, yeah, it's not fair to put it on one department or burden one department with these costs.
Governor, Governor, this is Justin Luna again, and so the division does have an emergency assistance account, budget account 1336, that we manage at the division level. It's funded through an annual distribution of interest from the state disaster relief account. However, that account does not have sufficient funds in it to be able to provide this level of support to have these types of needs.
Okay, well, do you understand my desire that we come up with another way to do this?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it, thank you. Any other comments?
Governor, this is John Steinbeck. One last comment. I think maybe this might be.
Ken, could you push your microphone in front of you? It goes
I'm sorry, I thought it
That's
was
okay. It does, it goes,
Oh,
it
it
just
goes
went
back
off
on.
again.
Yes. My last comment would be that I might suggest that this would be a great topic for us to discuss at the home.
Right here.
Chief
I think, okay, Chief Lynn will get it done, great, thank you. Okay, that was, Secretary, and for the record, could we reflect that Secretary Sagaski has joined us? That was item number 7C.
We haven't taken.
Yes.
Do you want one, please?
Yeah,
You do.
yeah, we'll go ahead with it.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and if we could have that discussion, Homeland Security, everybody will be there, and we could, great place to have it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Item number 8, approval of leases.
Item number 8, there are 13 leases in agenda item 8. Lease number 12 with the State Board of Dental Examiners has been withdrawn, leaving 12 leases for approval by the board this morning. Do any of the members have questions on any of these items?
No one, I appreciate withdrawing item number 12 after I had some questions as it related to that lease with that department that's gonna be reconstituted, that board. Do we have any discussions on,
If I could, Governor, I just want to thank your staff again. We send in questions and they answer us very promptly, and I just want to thank them again. Don't ever bring them up here because they answer them for us. So
I know.
thank you.
And I really appreciate you saying that, and bringing it up. One of the reasons that we do not have an abundance or a plethora of questions at these meetings is that we are all briefed individually, and staff has done a remarkable job responding to any questions that we have and eliminating questions at this meeting. So it's worked out very, very well. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And I appreciate you acknowledging that. The dental board lease was, I think, yes, it was the only one that I had a question with. And that one has been withdrawn, correct?
Correct.
And that'll go back to the new board when it's constituted?
Correct.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor on the leases?
So move approval, minus
We
what?
have a motion
Minus 12.
and a second for approval of the leases minus number 12. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 9.
Item number 9, there are 52 contracts in agenda item number 9 for approval by the board this morning. On contract number 9, that item has been changed, or 19, I'm sorry. That is with Department of Education and West Ed, and the last part of that Summary there has been removed. The words "and identifying potential changes to existing laws and regulations to increase the efficacy of the PCFM," that is not included in this contract, and we wanted to put that on the record. And then contract 47 was carried forward from the October Board of Examiners meeting due to outstanding questions from the board. Those items have been addressed. Do any of the members have any additional questions on these items?
Did,
And that's the Charles Day contract.
47, that was the one I had the questions that we were paying for travel, it was represented. Information as it relates to 41, the zero fatalities contract. I know they're doing advertising, but has there been a report on the?
We have reached out to the agency for some statistics on the zero fatalities program. And it's my understanding that there are staff in the Carson City location that may be able to answer some of your questions.
Yes, there are.
Good morning,
Okay.
Governor and members of the board. My name is Amy Davey. I'm the Administrator of the Office of Traffic Safety in the Department of Public Safety. This contract request is for an extension. It was a 2+2 original contract request. We've had 2 years under this contract. The Zero Fatalities Program is a joint effort between the Departments of Public Safety and the Nevada Department of Transportation, and this vendor supports the outreach and education under that program. We did provide some backup materials. I apologize, they were rather late last week, but our backup, we conduct a survey, a market survey and research every year on this contract to determine the effectiveness of the program. And if you have that backup material, you'll see, I think it's slide number, pardon me.
We don't have it, so can you summarize it for me?
Yes, sir. I think the important information is that this research study, which is quite lengthy, does show that the Zero Fatalities Education and Outreach Program is having significant impact on the behavior of the driving public in Nevada. So we have a slide that is specific to responses from our survey participants, the research participants, that indicates up safely, choosing to not drive impaired, choosing to wear their seatbelt, stopping at red lights. That is the basic feedback that we have from folks.
Okay, so have we quantified the improvement at all?
Yes, sir. And I'll make sure that you have this information. I'm looking at it's a slide entitled "The Impact of Zero Fatalities on Behavior." It says respondents living in Clark County were more likely than those in the north to indicate having been influenced by the campaign to do each of the behaviors listed in the survey, most notably not driving impaired and not texting or doing other distracting activities while driving. And the chart includes a bar graph that shows that, so for instance, 68% of Clark County.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's the only one that I had a issue on there. We'll have to look for the next one, I think. Right? Yeah, okay.
That's a question.
Attorney General Ford.
Yeah. Relating to Lyon County School District providing educational services to Caliente, Persian County providing services at Lovelock, and Washoe County School District providing services to Dieter.
We do have people coming to the table.
Okay.
Good morning. This is Mandy Davis, Deputy Administrator for the Division of Child and Family Services. This is just for contract number 31 with the
Okay.
Lincoln County School District. This is a contract to continue high school services at our juvenile justice facility at Caliente Youth Center.
Wondering if you could just talk to me a little bit about the success of the contract at this point.
The success of the contract, this contract basically allows the children who are housed at Caliente Youth Center to attend summer school. So the school district funds the regular school schedule, the 180 days in this contract. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that is what I'm looking for. I don't mind approving the contract, but I would like follow-up information on the graduation rates, if that makes sense.
We can provide that information.
Thank you. Comparable question for 35. Pershing County, helping out the folks over at Lovelock. Yeah, corrections, right.
As you've pointed out, this is a contract with Pershing County. Also, they are providing the education to the youthful offenders that are incarcerated in the Department of Corrections. They do have, as you know, a huge influence in the success of youthful offenders being able to absolutely a program that has been very fundamental. Programming historically has been limited to the youthful offenders. We have made arrangements to provide additional programming to those, but this has always been a keystone to their performance and transition back to the community.
Yeah, and the data that you could provide, I would like for it to include the high school equivalency exams and/or not just the graduation rates. So if you can let me know that as well, I'd appreciate it.
We will do so. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could, final question, Mr. Governor. Contract 51, Washoe County, working with Dieter on transitional services for students with disabilities.
There is no one coming to the table.
Anyone here?
Gonna hold it? Is this time sensitive?
No, there's no.
That's what it helps pay for, that we can't provide the services. And so we look elsewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's,
Yeah, it pays for a transition coordinator to assist across all school districts, or all schools in the district, I'm sorry, to ensure that students and young adults that have disabilities are able to progress in school and graduate with the knowledge, skills, and tools to succeed in post-secondary education.
Okay. Can we get the similar question to Washoe County on this issue? I don't mind voting in favor of it, but I would like to see what the successes have been on this particular contract.
it's a good question, it really is.
Yeah, we'll reach out for answer to those. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Governor.
certainly. Any further questions on item number 9? Hearing seeing none, do I have a motion? Approval. We have a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 10, approval of work plan.
There is one work plan in agenda item 10 for approval by the board this morning. Does anybody have any questions on this item?
I do not.
All right. Move approval.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Item number 11.
Item number 11, there are 9 master service.
Either the Land Surveyors Engineering Board, Podiatry Commission Board, or the Osteopathic Medicine Board here. Would you come up, please? Okay, this is an information item, but the question I got, which is more of a 30,000-foot question, you're asking for state resources, you know, to pay a lobbyist who,
What number is this?
shaking your head. This is that I have a question with. It's the lobbying service that I have a question with, and I guess this is a board question, and to have the discussion. My concern is we are going to great length with some of the boards and commissions that we have in the state now to root out some of the potential conflicts and problems that might exist. And as in the case of the dental board, the lobbyist did not do anything to make it more difficult for us to move forward with making a correction on the dental board. The lobbyist didn't. But my concern is that with some of these at the legislature, these same individuals will be testifying against changes to these boards and procedures at the legislature, and we're paying them to testify against what we might want. And they're not shocked that we pay private lobbyists to lobby the legislature, because most states don't allow this. They do it on their own. The board does it, or they have one of their members do it, and we are lobbying kind of against ourselves here and paying to lobby against ourselves. And I don't know wherever you two stand on this.
if I might, this is Barbara Sagowski, Secretary of State. I think one of the questions you asked, that there is an issue with the state paying for a lobbyist. I agree with you. I think we're one of the few states that allows that. But I do think we need and have the right to know who it is and how many
Right.
there are.
What happened to the list? We've asked, I know, last couple meetings for this list of lobbying contracts that are awarded for the various boards and how much they are and who they're awarded to. What happened to that?
So I have a copy of that list, and it was sent to your staff previously. It should have been sent to the other board members,
didn't get it.
but I will make sure that you both receive it.
Okay, if you could send it out again, then we'll all go to look at it. If all our staffs have gotten it, we didn't get it, that's our fault.
So I would just note that that list may not be all-inclusive. It is only,
If I might ask.
Well, if they're not sending it through like they're supposed to, we're getting back to the boards here running wild. Maybe that's gonna get quoted, I know. We're running to the board, going back to the boards, running without due oversight. And that's a problem. That's a real problem. And I don't know if they're supposed to send you a list or why they're not doing it. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask along these same lines, again, Barbara Sagowski for the record. Are these entities that, that we are asked as a board to pay? That's what you're talking about? There are additional ones that we haven't gotten? Okay.
so a number of the boards and commissions are required to put their contracts through Board of Examiners for final approval. And
Those are the ones that we,
All of us get a copy of that list, what the LCB is showing and what they're showing coming through me. I'll give you an example. The last time, I didn't know we had so many lobbyists working on dry needling in the last legislative session. It ended up being an enormous bill between acupuncturists and doctors and sports teams, and everybody was involved with the dry needling issue. And I don't know who's working against whom and for whom and how they're getting paid and what happened. Why are they not matching up? I mean, the two, because somebody's not reporting it to you.
that would be my guess.
so then we as a board, Governor, could deny anybody who doesn't send in the
So
information.
we can't deny it. They're not sending it in to deny.
Well, somebody's paying them and they come
Yeah,
to
are they
us
paying them
for-
without getting approval? These boards?
Unless they're doing it pro bono, I don't know. I don't
Well,
have the answer to that
I know a lot of
question.
these lobbyists. I don't think they're doing it pro bono. That's just a guess. I don't think that they're doing it pro bono, but
For lack of application or approval, even.
we should ask our Attorney General that question.
Well, I'm saying it out loud because I got some people in this
I
room.
like that, I like that.
Like you said, where's your staff? So I got
Yeah,
some staff talking. So we will take a look into that to see if we could render null and void contracts that have been executed but not approved. I don't know if that's accurate or not. But
Yeah.
I'm just thinking out loud here. But I also want to mention this component, and Barbara chime in here, but when we were in the legislature, I did find it helpful when a board came to lobby, if you will, me as a legislator on issues affecting that board. Now, if we're not gonna have lobbyists doing that, it's gonna be imperative that the boards themselves
Right.
know enough about what's going on, because sometimes the conversation that will undercut what the governor wants or what the board wants, or some people who are constituents of the board. And in that regard, I could see the reason why they would be lobbying against a bill that
Right.
the legislature may want, so to speak. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be imperative that if we don't have lobbyists, if we don't have lobbyists doing this, that the boards are brought up to speed, that they have the right type of understanding of what's being asked for, so that legislators can make informed decisions on whether to say yes or no and send it to your desk for a signature.
I think it's a very valid point. Lobbying. And I question if the public is being served in the manner that it's being done now, because I don't know if anybody even knows how it's being done now. I mean, people are coming representing a board and they're representing the position. I don't know if those positions are voted on. I don't know if those positions are just one of the members or the executive director that has that position, or how that even comes about. And I'm concerned that it's one of our areas we're going to emphasize is the board development and revamping of this board regulation commission oversight. And if we're going to have individual boards that we are paying lobbying against those changes, that's going to be problematic at the legislature.
Yeah.
Well, I think all come before us, if there's a time restraint or whatever it is, because we have the video capability. But one of the things I want to make sure that we do have is whether or not everybody agrees with what bill it is. we need to know both sides. And the reason I say that is because we've listened to testimony on bills, and they've said, let's put it in the Secretary of State's office, and nobody's talked to us. So we have a concern watching and going in. So I do think it's good to have both sides, and then to say how it'll affect that agency. I think that's really good to have that kind of that balance, so that you know what's going to happen or what could come forward to us. And so that I would highly recommend that there, you know, if you do have an opposition, please come and tell us, let us know what it is. But that
branch to address a particular issue, but those who would be required to implement that, i.e. practitioners in the field, ostensibly were not approached about the bill itself and how it negatively affect their practice. And so we would get lobbied to oppose a bill that the executive branch has brought, but the executive branch is bringing it for a very good reason. And so that back and forth is very important. And again, I don't know if this necessarily requires a lobbyist for the board itself, especially if the executive branch is instructing the board to do something, to lobby against us. I think the first order of business is to ascertain whether we as a board have the ability to declare those null and void. And potentially even to, I don't know if we can recoup fees or not, but I thought there's a rabbit hole.
If you, and I appreciate that, if you could, so the next agenda, put an agenda item to specifically deal with this, make sure we all get this list, and so we can cross-reference who's lobbying and not had these contracts approved, and who is having them approved, and what consistency there is in these fees, and how these fees are being determined. I have no idea how they've been coming. I know, yeah.
So we don't have any of that.
That's what I would like to know. I want to make sure they're arm's length transactions. I mean, we don't know anything about these.
But if they come to us and asking the state for money, we should have some.
They're not asking us for money, they're asking us to approve the contract
Approve
that
the
they're going
spending
to
of their
pay
money.
our
They're paying
funds.
for this with their fees. The dentists or the doctors or the, and oftentimes it's confusing because the board has a lobbyist, the association has a lobbyist, individual members of the association have a lobbyist, and there's a confusion about who's representing whom. So we could, that'd be very beneficial, helpful for me.
So
Okay.
all of these are contracted, that's what we're talking
know.
about? Some of them are, they want the state to pay, that's what I was looking at. None of them, not any of them, not.
Okay.
Okay,
Do we have a motion on this one?
no need for a motion,
No
that's
need
an
for a motion,
informational
that's
item.
right. Okay. Okay, next item is
Item 13.
13, information item and reports.
So there are two informational reports under this agenda item. The first is an informational report regarding lands or interest in lands transferred, sold, exchanged, or leased under the Tahoe Basin Act program, as well as a quarterly report on the status of real property or interests in real property transferred under the Lake Tahoe Mitigation Program. These are required pursuant to NRS 321.5954 and Chapter 355 Statutes of Nevada 1993 respectively.
Okay.
This report is for the quarter ending September 30th, 2019. There was no activity under the Tahoe Basin Act, resulting in an increase of $12,237 for the Nevada Land Bank. And the second item is an informational report on the available balances in the various contingency accounts managed by the Board of Examiners or the Interim Finance Committee. These balances are as of October 17th, 2019. These accounts will cover contingencies through the 2019-21 biennium, and I would be happy to answer any questions on the second item.
I guess it's unrestricted contingencies going down with the last item we approved, huh? Got it. Okay. Any questions on item number 13?
These figures, for example, the tort claim fund, do they include reserves, or are these the numbers without reserves?
These are without reserves. These are the actual available balances that can be spent without any other action.
Okay. Thanks.
Good. Okay, that is an information item. That completes the agenda. The last item is item number 14, public comment.
And you can sit down. I just want to make sure that my vote is recorded for the beginning.
Yes.
Thank you.
The gold standard for licensing boards nationwide, a gold standard that makes public safety the prime directive for our public servants. And I got to say, I didn't hear much about patient and consumer protection during the audit committee meeting the other day. And while tax revenues are vital, the question remains, what is our standard of care? Well, with medical error as the third leading cause of death, a system where hospitals, big pharma, and the medical device industry are bankrupting our citizens and our country. But it's so much worse than that. The suffering, the pain, the agony of being experimented on during the last 3 years of your life is absolutely horrendous. We must awaken from our slumber. We are being crucified by the hundreds of thousands. But since they are profiteering off of our old people, we turn the other way so as to deny our own mortality. But this Nazi-esque eugenics program is destroying the soul of our country. We have become cattle to be fed upon. Our petrochemical pharmaceuticals are killing us in droves. We must take back our democracy. We must create a more delegated democracy. We cannot let our old people become cannon fodder. But guess what, people? The medical profession is so soulless that these young doctors actually believe the corrupted research that has been presented to them. How does a pharmaceutical that only works 30% of the time get prescribed with so many side effects? How do we let an experimental procedure with unproven medical device that demonstrates an increased mortality rate get performed thousands of times a day? The evidence is clear and convincing, and thus we cannot repeat the short-sighted mistakes of other states. We are Nevadans, battle-born. It is up to us to set the standard of care. We cannot let centralized, top-down hierarchical structures create a concentration of power. We must enact a diversity initiative while creating a more delegated democracy that ensures the separation of church and state. I, for one, don't wish to replicate the Mormon-run state of Utah, where so many residents work for the state in some way. Nor would I wish to replicate the police state of Colorado, where white supremacy is so blatant. We are a diverse state. Our governing body should reflect that diversity. Thank you for your honorable efforts. I'm grateful.
Anybody in Carson City?
No.
That was a quick read, no. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
There is no one in Carson City for public
Turns it
comment.
She's got it on the red.
Could you shake your head, then we could maybe see you. Is there anybody in Carson? I got it, okay, thank you, okay. Thank you. The visual was much easier to get across. The audio, for some reason, didn't work. No one else in Las Vegas? Great. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.